Hello, my name is Jawad Ali, and in this video, I will be walking you through the cybersecurity strategy and roadmap development. In this video, I will be talking about what the process looks like, what components make up strategy and roadmap, and why do we need strategy and roadmap. So let's dive in without wasting any time. The first, the problem strategy is trying to address is this misalignment between requirements and security, reactive security, siloed security, and this confusion about improvements and owners. I can dive in deeper. Misalignment is about security. Organizations don't just implement security, they implement security for some requirements, for some reasons, and when security is not fulfilling those requirements, there is misalignment. Reactive security, sometimes organizations have problems, they have breaches, they have incidents, and they just, for a quick short time, uh, you know prioritize security, but after that they just the priority is not the same over time. So this is reactive security. What happens with reactive security is that the same incidents keep happening, and the same response also happens. So it's very ineffective. Businesses suffer heavily in this reactive approach. Security should be proactive. If you are prioritizing, if you are using resources after you have been affected, that's not the purpose of security. The damage is already done. You want to do something before the damage is done. So reactive security is a problem. Siloed security, and this is also a problem. We have many different domains in security. You have networks, applications, data, um, endpoint, governance, etc. So you have different domains of security. They have to work together. When these different domains work separately, you have many redundant tools, hundreds of tools that you don't need. This is siloed security. You are spending more on security, but you are not getting the reward that you should be. And not clear owners. Well, the world changes, the business change. So there needs to be some KPIs. There needs to be some reporting, and that's why you have that. These are the problems strategy is trying to address. But before we do that, we need to differentiate between strategy and roadmap. Strategy is the destination, and roadmap is the path that you take to the destination. Strategy is high level, roadmap is very detailed and specific. Example, of course, of a mountain. You want to reach to the top of the mountain with cheap gear and less training. That's the strategy, okay? And the roadmap is, well, okay, I will be taking this path, with this person, using this time of the year, with this gear and this priority. So it's very detailed and specific. This is more explanation to clear the concept. You can read it if you want to. Why need we secure? Why we need security? And I think we have already discussed, the problems. So some of the problems with strategy, your security helps the business. It's not a cost center, it helps the business. It's a proactive risk management. It prevents incidents and breaches. It helps the investment. So you have a security leader coming up to the board saying, we have this organization objectives, and this is how security can help you to achieve those objectives. So security is an enabler for the organization. It also helps with the governance. With the governance is what to report, when to report. Everybody knows their responsibilities. This is governance. There is also roadmap. So remember, it's not just strategy. Strategy is one part. Roadmap is how do you get to where do you want. So roadmap is extremely important. If you have a strategy but you don't have a roadmap, that's half picture. You're still going to run into many problems. And some of the problem is, well, why you need a roadmap is because you need vision into action. It's not just vision. You have a strategy, you have to put that strategy into action. You need roadmap. Prioritize initiatives, measure progress, enhanced communication and coordination, you need roadmap. So this is the why you need strategy and roadmap. Now let's move on to the problems with not having a strategy and roadmap. It's the opposite of the benefit. So you're going to have a misalignment, inadequate risk management, which is reactive response, lack of clear governance, it's waste of resources, difficulty in securing budget and resources. Well, when you are, these board and executives, they exist to get as much benefit as possible. If you are not able to demonstrate return on investment, why would they approve an investment in the first place? So you need to demonstrate that. And what strategies does is that it aligns security with business objectives. So you can tell the executives very easily, all right, I'm doing this, but I'm doing this for a reason. I'm doing this is to help people, is help you people, and this is how you can get the executive buy-in very easily. The same goes for a roadmap. If you don't have a roadmap, you're going to have a problem with resources. You would not know the progress. Where are we in the terms of strategy? There could be delays. You might not be able to evolve. Poor communication and coordination, and exposure. You get the point. The point is that strategy and roadmap is very important. And remember, it's not important for everyone. It's important for certain types of organization. What kind of organization specifically? Medium-sized and large organizations. They have gotten to a point where technology is very complex and they need strategy to navigate the complexity. If the medium-sized and large-sized organizations don't have a strategy, they are going to have a waste of resources and lots of resources, and they're still going to be insecure. So they will have breaches and incidents despite $1 million of investment without strategy. That's why you need a strategy. You're going to spend less and get more when you have a strategy and roadmap. So the high level process of how this roadmap and strategy looks like, how do you develop this? It's a CISA, and this one is Gartner. So Gartner is very simple. The strategic mission, and then you have a current state, gap analysis, prioritize. So it may be confusing. Let's divide cybersecurity strategy into 3 parts. The first part is the current state, and this is the target state. This is the roadmap. You want to go to the target state. The target state is where you feel comfortable. You think that, well, you are not going to have compliance violations. You are going to have less risk. You are not going to have fewer incidents. So you're going to be more comfortable. This is the target state. But how do you get to the target state? You're going to get to the target state from the current state. So you want to look at the current state. Where are you now? And this helps you. You might already be good in some areas. So looking at the current state is very important. You're saying, all right, this is where we want to go in the target state, but we are already there. So there is no need to do something. The current state is very important for the target state. Once you define the target state and the current state, then of course there is a gap, and the gap is then addressed with the roadmap. You're saying, all right, this is what we're going to do. This is the project. We will do this this time of the year to fill the gaps and achieve the target state. So the highest level, this is with the process. CISA, this is the CISA 7-step process. They have made it more simple. So prioritize and scope, orient and create current profile. This is the current state. Conducting risk assessment, creating a target profile. This is the target state. And determining analysis and implement road action. This is the roadmap. Gartner is very simple. Strategic vision is the target state, and the rest are very easy to explain. So let's move on. Let's move on to get more deeper into strategy and roadmap. So I've already divided into three parts, which is the current, target, and the roadmap. But let's dive deeper. You have the current business requirements. Okay. Remember that security exists for requirements, for business requirements. So I have divided it accordingly. Current business requirements and security program. What is a security program? Everything. Everything in security, like controls, people, processes. People, process, technology, security objective, policies, strategies, everything in security control designed for business requirements. So this is security program. Business requirements, I have divided it further into organizational mission requirements, compliance requirements, and risk requirements. The organization mission requirements, every organization has to do something, right? You have a manufacturing company, they manufacture something. You have a healthcare company, they provide health services. So this is those things, the things that they do. They provide, they have a vision, they have a mission, and it's about the operations, the what they do as part of the day-to-day activities. So organization mission addresses that. In organization mission, we're looking at the mission, the vision, the annual objectives, the data, application, and technology assets. Um, so it tells us about the operations. We can define the security objectives according to these objectives that we and data we gather from this phase. So that's why it's important. We also get stakeholder input to see if the data is accurate and aligned. um, So this is the mission requirements. You also move on to compliance requirement. Well, it's if when you operate in a country, in a state, you have to follow the law. Okay, sometimes there are laws specific for some industries, some types of sizes, so you have to follow those. You may also working with some potential customers, and you have contractual requirements. You're saying, all right, as part of the business between the two parties, I have we're going to have this requirement. So you have agreements, contractual requirements, to contractual agreements with partners, with businesses, with customers. So this is the contractual requirements. There's also standards. Well, you are also working with some other businesses, with some other customers, so that other customers might want you to be compliant to a specific standard like ISO. So this is those standards. These are all compliance requirements. There is also one more requirement, and this is the major requirement. It's risk requirements. Risk appetite, risk tolerance, risk acceptance criteria, third party, and risk assessment, threat requirements. All of them are risk requirements. Risk appetite are just high level statements about assets. For example, you're saying, all right, we have customer database, we have a low appetite. This is high level statement. Risk tolerance, very detailed. You're saying, all right, what low means? You're saying we have we will not tolerate more than 100 records of customers in a database. This is specific interpretation of risk appetite. Risk acceptance criteria, you're saying, all right, we're not going to accept 100 100 records, 500 records, 200 records. This is risk acceptance criteria. You're also saying what is medium, what is high, what is low. So you would define those things in risk acceptance criteria. There's third party. So every organization relies on third party, on some external vendors. So you would saying, all right, what kind of third party we would be working in? Because remember, this is a major issue, third party. So that's why it's part of the requirement. Third party, and these are everywhere. Hundreds and thousands of third party are being used. Some third parties are so important that they can halt operations, and that's why you would like to look into it. Third party. So there is also risk assessment. You're saying, all right, what assets do we have? What risks do we have? Which risks are more important? So you might look into risk register, risk responses, risk owners, etc. Risk processes as well. Because remember, the current state is not just looking at the data. The current state is also looking at the processes. The data is the result of processes. So you have people, processes, and technology. Are the people competent? Are the processes, relevant and mature? Just sufficient for the organizational requirements? And what is the data? The data tells something about the people and processes, so it's very helpful. It gives you a snapshot. This concludes the current state. Organization requirements, compliance requirements, and risk requirements make up the business requirements. To be specific, current business requirements. Then you move on to current program, security program. So it's about gathering data about what you already have. What objectives do you already have? What strategy do you already use? Policies, controls, and roles and responsibilities. Just gather data related to those things you already have. This becomes the target state. At this point, we're not making any judgments. We're just gathering data. The judgment part is later in the target state. So you move on to the target stage once you gather the data. The current state is about gathering data about people, process, and technology. So we move on to the target state. The target state is where do we want to be? So it's not defined at this point. We have to define it. Like the current state, I'm going to divide it into the business and security program. In business, I'm also going to further divide it into adjusted business requirement that currently apply and the future state. In the adjustment, well, we have already gathered data about the mission, about the objectives, about the assets, about the stakeholder, about compliance. It applies far more actually. So compliance, risk. So we are going to gather data. We are going to evaluate. What do I mean by evaluate? Ask the stakeholders responsible for objectives, responsible for the asset list, for the stakeholder input, for compliance and risk, and ask the stakeholder if the data that they have on the current state is still relevant, it's still accurate, it's still latest and complete. Well, of course, it may not be accurate. Sometimes organizations have data that's old, that's not maintained. So when you evaluate it, when you ask the stakeholder again to review it, if it's accurate or not, if it's complete or latest and relevant, they might have a different answers. And this could give you the adjustment in the business requirements. Like I said, remember, you don't want to start from scratch. If you already have data from stakeholders, why not use it? So this is why the current state is important, and that's if we are using the current state and we are reviewing it, we are adjusting it, and this gives us the target state. Now, some of the things might change, of course. Well, you have priorities, you have objectives, you had previous year, you have different objectives now. You tried following compliance, no, you have expanded, you have shrunk, you have risk requirements that change. So yeah, you might have a different business requirement. That's why I'm doing this reviewing the and adjusting the current business requirements, because we already have a data for current requirements. Why not just adjust it? It's the easiest one, and it's very relevant. Remember, and in business and strategy and roadmap, you might have a very inaccurate and poor data. So why not use the existing data that's already available that can make the process very accurate? And remember, accuracy can help the business. So it can help them return on investment. They are spending a lot of time and resources in strategy, and when they're using existing data and reviewing it and evaluating it, it can help them, create a strategy that is very, aligned, that is accurate, and that's useful. So this is about the adjustment. What you can also do is gather new data. And when I say gather new data, what I mean is businesses have strategic plans. Sometimes organizations have strategic plans. They're saying, all right, this is what we're going to do in 5 years, in 3 years. This is what we think we're going to do. They have IT initiatives. They're saying, all right, we're going to do IT, we're going to do cloud, we're going to do AI. So they have those initiatives. There is also trend. So we can take a look at the trend. For example, you can easily see that there will be AI adoption. So this is a trend. And based on these things, you can create some requirements. You're saying, we're going to use AI. So we must be prepared for AI as well. We are going to implement, some kind of AI project. So we have to prepare that in the business requirement. So it's what is important now, what will be important later. And these two things combine to create the business requirements. All right, so the target business requirements is done. We move on to the target security program. In this process, we are evaluating and assessing the current security program. What we are trying to determine is that, is the current security program able to fulfill the business requirements, the newer one that we have identified? Is it able to do that? And if the current security program is not able to address the requirements, how can we change it to be able to address it? So it's about evaluation and assessment. We are looking at the current security program. All right, what can address the requirements and what cannot address the requirements, what are the gaps, and what should be done to do that. So this creates the target security program. And remember that components that make up security program are security objectives, security strategy, security policies, security controls, and roles and responsibilities. So you are saying, is the current security program able to do that? If it's not able to do that, how can we design it in a way to be able to address the requirements? This creates the target state for the security program. And once we do that, the target security program is very important because this is what we're trying to do. And then when we identify the target security program, we move on to the roadmap. Roadmap is what makes the whole process operational. It's what makes it useful. It's not just a strategy. If you can have a strategy, but if you don't execute it, it's useless. So what roadmap does is that it keeps that into action. How can you create a roadmap? As part of the security program, you have identified some changes. Some of the changes are redundant, so you group those, accordingly. You just you crosswalk the common changes. All right, so there is no redundancy. Sometimes there is similarity. One example is, let's say, inventory asset management. So you may have software asset management. That's one cross unique requirement. Then you have a hardware asset management. Then there is data asset management. So you can combine these three into just one asset management, and you're saying, all right, I will create one project for this thing in the form of asset management tool. I'm going to apply a project to deploy a tool for these changes. So you're grouping those things. Once you have created different projects, you're going to say, all right, which project is needed the most at the time. So if you are, let's say, if you have identified a very important area, high risk area, let's say you don't have an EDR, but you have a lot of malwares, a lot of customers sending you files, etc., and you're opening a lot of these files. You're saying, we really need an EDR, so this is a priority. So you have to prioritize all of these projects accordingly. You can use different attributes. I don't want to just say that, but you can use different attributes to prioritize. But what you need to do is you have to prioritize. You cannot just use these projects. Some of the projects will be more important than the other, and you have to use it. Of course, once you prioritize projects, you have a roadmap, you have a timeline. You can just say, you can create a timeline, something like this. You can also have a Gartner timeline. You're saying major project, this is what we are going to do, which time of the year, and you can be more specific to identify the owners, etc. You're saying on month 1, month 2, this is what we're going to do. So this is the timeline for the roadmap. You can also, like I said, assign roles and responsibility. You're saying, all right, this is the project. Who's going to execute it? What are the resources available to do it? So this is the project management area. And of course, once you have this, this roadmap, and you are going to then execute it and monitor it. You're going to say, all right, this is the KPIs, this is the due date, this is the reporting, this is the metric, this is the expectations. Execute it and monitor it. Some things I have added here is the different maturity requirements. So maturity requirements are the levels at which you are achieving. So you might be achieving something very nicely, very efficiently, effectively, and some other things you don't need to be achieve effectively. So this is what maturity means. um, this is the Gartner as well. It gives you the future state, current state, the gap, and mitigation migration plan. This is the NIST CSF that you can use for current and target state templates. So this was it about these strategy and roadmap. What I have discussed today was just the components that make up the strategy and roadmap. How can you do this? This is a very, another, uh, detailed topic that I would like to elaborate later in the future. But at the moment, it's just too much. So I really hope you have learned something. If you have, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.